Welcome back to the Red Bill Performance channel. Lordy. This is your first time joining us. Thank you. We love having you here. If it's not, then thank you for coming back. On the previous episode, we got the heads together for this project here. And to do a little catch up for anyone that is new, we are putting the engine together for an 03, well, late year model 02 Powerstroke. It's a 2002 late year F350 Super Duty that I have fondly nicknamed Project Dopity Dope because it has the just dopest wheels of ever on it. And I'm a huge fan of Peg, so you know, it's more of a homage to him than anything. Homage. Not real sure. Ain't even gonna worry about it. But we had made some tasteful modifications to it. You know, we're just trying to get a little more power out of it, a little more fun, a little more, I don't know, just, you know, power. We was chasing that power. And in the process of it, the Mad Hatter behind the keyboard, you know, got a little carried away, and said Mad Hatter, being this guy, you know, put a window in the block. So, had to make things right. We had to go pick up some engines, and then we had to sort through said engines to find our best candidate as far as, you know, the block and crank goes, so we could start the process of getting a new engine together for this truck. And like I said in the last episode, we just freshened up the heads. We got new valve springs on them. It's the same valves because there's nothing wrong with the heads. I mean, these are the heads that come off the original engine. Nothing wrong with them. Truck ran great. I just took all the valves, buffed them off, cleaned them off. We put in new valve seals, put new springs in, some fresh assembly lube, and you know, cleaned them up really good. Dropped in some new injector cups. Used the Loctite 620 retaining compound. Don't know if it's the right stuff, but you know, the internet swears it is, so I mean, it's gotta be, right? I mean, if the internet says it's the right stuff, then it has to be the right stuff. It's just how things work. And then that brings us to today's project, getting the bottom end together. And a lot of the prep work has already been done here. The block's already been cleaned up. We did the whole scrub-a-dub-dub in the tub, done washed it, done cleaned out all the galleys. The cylinders have been honed, the lifter bores have been honed. We got a little bit of oil here because, of course, I mean, after pressure washing it and hand scrubbing it and just doing, you know, several hours worth of cleaning, somehow this one bolt hole managed to retain oil in it. And while, you know, it was hanging there, it decided to leak out. So I got to clean that up, you know, before we can paint it. Don't know how this stuff happens. I don't, you know, I mean, if you're looking for oil, buy a 7.3 and plant it in your yard. It will start producing oil year round. You can hook a drum up to it and the drum will steadily just fill itself because these never stop producing oil. That's all I'm going to say on that. But like I had previously said, this engine is, like, we've already gone through it. We honed it. We got our cylinders all nice and beautiful. We got everything cleaned up, all of our mating surfaces, we got them cleaned and prepped. The block is ready for all the good bits to go in it now. We have ourselves a set of Brian Crower forged connecting rods. Stock length, you know, all that, you know, all the stock goodness, except for they're just some really beef rods because, well, we're not wanting to sacrifice power. And if you're not looking to sacrifice power, you gotta spend some money somewhere. Because we want this thing, go on there, come on, you can do it, you can do it. Oh, I believe in you. So in order to not sacrifice any power, we had to spend a little money to upgrade a few things. Because, you know, you can't turn them down. Once you turn them up, you can't turn them down. Like, it's not how tuning works. It's not how laptops work. It's just fundamentally against how things work. Like, once a truck is turned up, that's where it has to live. If stuff breaks, you just have to spend the money and beef up everything until it quits breaking. And try not to turn it up anymore, or you're just gonna have to spend more money. It's just how it is. I mean, I have no say over it, like no one does. It's just how the world works. And now that we've established that we cannot possibly turn it down, we're gonna move forward with building it up. And first thing on today's agenda, I probably need to get all the plugs back in the block before I forget to do it later. Because, you know, that happens. You know, sometimes it does happen. You know, people will be at this state and then they'll be so excited about putting their engines back together that they'll forget to, you know, put all the plugs back in all the oil galleys and passages and stuff that they took out for the cleaning process. And then they'll fire it up and like, man, this thing ain't got no oil pressure. What's going on? We're gonna try to not make that mistake. So I'm going to get all of our plugs and all that stuff cleaned up, get some new thread sealer on them, and get them put in the block. So y'all just hang tight while I go clean all this up. After many days, I finally have all the plugs in the block. And that being said, getting the plugs in the block was not the problem, because I already had said plugs, and I had a fairly good idea where said plugs went in said block. You have your two lifter galley plugs, and these are lifter galley plugs because these are the bores that go all the way through the block this way. Both of these, this one and that one, go all the way through the block that feed through the lifters and go all the way out the back. I have those two plugs back in with the sealant on it. So those are good to go. Those are easy. First ones I put in. The next one I put in was the oil bypass plug. Now this one has a spring on it with a check ball that's right down there in that hole, and then this is where the oil bypasses if oil pressure gets too high. So, you know, that one's kind of important. I mean, I don't like it. I'd like to block it off and just let the oil pressure just whew, to the moon. I mean, that'd make me feel good about things, but I don't know, apparently it needs to have that. Don't know why. Psh, stupid. Then I got this plug put back in. Then I got all the side plugs for the oil galley that travels this way back in. And these never come out because these just literally come right here into the block like they're nothing. Like, I don't exactly know what they're for because they don't even have mirrored ones on the other side. They're just two random plugs that just go in the side of the block. But I guess if you ever did, which they're on the wrong side, they're on this side of the engine. It would be better if they were on this side, but if you ever did like an added turbo kit, you have returns right there. I mean, you just pull out these plugs, put in a threaded piece, and you have built-in returns straight into the engine. So, simple, eh? But yeah, we never touch those because, like I said, there's absolutely no reason to touch those. Got this plug in, and this is the one that goes all the way back here for the rear oil. And we got that plug back in. And then that right there, we had that one out, but it's back in, but it's just into the coolant passage. And this one does have a mirrored one on the other side of the block. It's back in. And the reason I had all of these plugs out was so while I was doing the cleaning process of the block, you know, because after cleaned up all the surfaces and got all the muck off the engine, you know, you want to clean out your oil galleys. So in case any debris got down in them, especially after, you know, honing the lifter bores too, because, you know, you got the hone in there and bits of the hone break off, and then plus it just, you know, nastiness occurs. So it's good to take out all your plugs and, you know, get some wire brushes, run through everything if, you know, as best you can, and, you know, get the pressure to it, you know, flush out every passage that you can as best you can. you know, and it just makes your life so much better. And then all these, like this in here goes up to that main, this in here goes to that main, like they're crossboard this way, this one goes up to that main. That's why I had all those plugged out, so I could blast through and clear it all out, and then you blast up through the hole that's actually in the mains here, and then those go up to the cam bearings. Like I said, it's just really important to clean out all these passageways. That way, on initial startup, whenever you start pumping fresh oil through this thing, you're not catching all the trash that's left behind and then just ramrodding it right into your brand new bearings and wrecking a fresh engine build. They're all back in. Nothing has been forgotten. So we are safe to continue on. And I know, I hear you. I hear you yelling at me. Calm down. I realize that's not a plug. It used to be a plug, but it's no longer a plug. Why is it no longer a plug? Because I'm adding a few things. Just like two. Just adding like two things. And that would be, well, you know, these gauges are going to be somewhere. Not exactly sure where, but I want to have a second opinion on what's going on with the engine, because the factory gauges in said truck are liars. Just liars. I don't like them. I just don't like them. But I still want them there and functioning. So, like I said, I don't know if under the hood somewhere or if somewhere in the cab, these are going to be discreetly put away. Like, I haven't fully made up my mind on how I'm going to go about it. I'll let you know more when we get there. But the fact is, it's getting an oil pressure gauge, and these are all digital. They're not mechanical. There's no hard lines. I mean, they are digital. They're all ran by wire, but I'm going to have an oil pressure one. I'm going to have a temperature one. And then I'm going to have another voltmeter. I mean, might as well. I mean, it comes in a 3-pack. Might as well hook that one up too. It's just an extra wire. And that brings us to what took so long to do this. Because I have all kinds of 1/4-inch MPT adapters and fittings. Like, all kinds of them. Here, I'll even show you. I have just an assortment of just, you know, junk and plugs and stuff and just adapters and unions and this and that, and I got plenty, especially in the 1/4-inch field, 1/4-inch and up. Apparently I'm fresh out of 1/8-inch adapters and fittings. So I had to take a 1/4-inch plug, drill it out, and then tap it for 1/8 inch. So whenever the motor goes in, I'll be able to install that. You know, that was the first problem. Then the second problem was, I was like, you know what? I might as well sort out where I'm going to put my coolant temperature sensor. And it just so happens it's 1/8 inch too. So I had to take another plug and drill a hole through it and thread it for 1/8 inch so I could put the coolant sensor in it. And then that's where this plug come from. That was there, because this factory provision's here, but it's plugged off. Like, it doesn't get used on the 7.3s because the factory coolant sensor goes right here. So that worked out perfectly. And I like the placement of everything, because once the water pump is in its home, booyah. One sensor here, one sensor here. Makes the wiring very simple. I like simple. Simple's nice. And that takes care of that little situation. Now, let's see, what do we want to do now? Well, now the only thing I can do is crank. We got to get the block swung over. And voila. All right, well, I probably need to set it more like this. No, I need it like this. Yeah, because now I need to get these bearings out, get all the old bearings out, get the new bearings put in so I can get the bore measurement on them, then check the journal size, calculate our difference in size between the bore here and the actual main journal size. That would give us our oil clearance, you know, in thousandths, hopefully. And I'm going to say it is because, as you can tell, that's the crank that come out of this block. That crank didn't come out of another block. That crank came from this block, and as you can tell, it was wearing fine. I mean, this is a 300,000 mile engine. As you can tell, it was wearing fine for 300,000 miles. And I know that some of you may notice this spot here and be like, whoa, that crank's bent, bro, or something, because, you know, up here at the snout, I mean, look at that. I mean, it's wearing great everywhere else, and then you get up here to the snout and look at that. It's trying to eat its way out the side of the block. No. No. 1 second. And once we rotate this back over into its upright posizione, I'll be right back. Now, with the engine in its slightly cocked but upright posizione that you would find it in said automobile, the crank bearing wear, let's get you here. The crank bearing wear is in this left corner. Can y'all see that? Yes, you can. The wear is happening here in this leftwards direction. And this leftward direction, if you'll stop and recall for one moment, what sits right here? The tensioner sits right here. So that belt is pulling right here. And that's why, like, especially on you V-belt guys, you know, like if you got an older car, well, any vehicle with a manual tensioner, that's why it is important not to over tighten your belt. Because in some extreme cases, it has been seen that the snout of the crank would break off. A lot of people don't blame it on, you know, over tensioning of the belt, but I'm gonna say it's not impossible. But I will say, your number one main, you can wipe out that bearing. You can take out that bearing, you can destroy it if your belt is over tensioned or undersized. Like, let's say you get some brand of belt, and I'm pretty sure we've all been there before, but you put a new serpentine belt on something, and the brand that you got, it seems like you have your tensioner as far as it'll go. I mean, at max, just chooch. And then you still have a buddy over here with a pry bar or a screwdriver or something fighting the belt on. And then once you get the belt on, the tensioner don't even release. It's still at full chooch, full tight, you know, like you got as much tension on that belt as you possibly can. That's not good. You are putting a lot of snout pressure on that crank, and you are definitely side loading that first main really bad. That's just something to think about if you're doing your own maintenance routine, or you got an older car with, like I said, like a manual tensioner on it. And I'm wanting to say, what is it? I think there is some serpentine cars that had manual tensioners on them there for a little while. I'm wanting to say a few Dodges did, maybe Jeeps. I can't really remember, but I do know that there's a few serpentine. And the reason why I keep bringing up serpentine is because a serpentine belt can handle a lot more strain than a V-belt can. Like, you know, a serpentine system, especially if it has a manual tensioner on it, you can really wind her up. Or if it's a modern one, you know, that has a spring-loaded tensioner, it's very easy, if you got a belt that was a little too small, to do exactly what I had just said a minute ago. You know, force that belt on there, and then not only are you just overstressing everything in the serpentine system, like your alternator, your AC compressor, your power, everything, you're like putting a lot of pressure on all their bearings and side loading them and really hurting them, you're physically hurting your engine. And I know, like, usually at the time, you don't even think about it. You're just like, this belt ain't gonna hurt this engine. Like it's not even a thought that goes through your head, but it really should be. Because as you can see from the front main on this one, it's a perfect demonstration of what belt tension does to the engines and how it affects the wear over time. And I mean, obviously, 300,000 mile engine, you know, that's not bad. You know, it made it that long. It made it 300,000 miles, and I don't know how many years this engine was on the road. If it was on the road 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know. It's, you know, I wasn't there for the life of it. But that's just my PSA to y'all. Now, roll it back over and actually get into the meat and potatoes of this project. All right, well, I'm going to get the bearings pulled out and get everything wiped down because I had put some oil. I had coated all this with oil here so, you know, it wouldn't set up any surface rust. So I'm going to get everything wiped down. I'm going to get the new bearings in it and the caps on with the studs and torque down so then I can get the internal bore measurement of each one of these. Then we can measure the journal and we can, you know, get our numbers that we need. I'll be right back. Update time. First off, I want to start with the studs. So far, the Track Tech studs, I like them. They're not spongy. You can get them to their full torque. They feel good. They've come with all the hardware. They even have the stud for the, you know, oil pickup tube on there, and they come with the nut and washer for it too. So they have got their most of their they've got most of the things covered that they need. Now, one problem I have had with them, and my particular box, my particular package did not come with instructions. Now, I've done stuff like this enough that I don't really need instructions per se, but it is nice to know the torque, you know, the max torque that they suggest for their component. And, you know, with no instructions whatsoever, you don't know what to torque them to. So, you know, I went on the Google webs, couldn't really find nothing, but their 7.3 main studs just came out. You know, they ain't even got a picture of them up yet. I couldn't find anything on their website. Like, I looked around for links, you know, as of the filming of this operation, as of this current day in this world right here, I couldn't find any links or anything on their website that would let you download an instruction manual or anything of that manner. That being said, I called their customer service number. I immediately got put in touch, immediately got with a person, like a real live actual person, and they were able to help me. They emailed me what I needed, you know, to get the job done. So we do know how to torque, we know what to torque them to. Like, it didn't come with any sequence or anything like that. It just said, you know, max torque for the M12 size ones, you know, so for the main studs was 125, and it said torque in 3 steps, you know, 3 steps to 125. And then this M10, once you put it on, torques down to 45 foot-pounds. So I just split it up. The first torque's 50, the second torque's 90, last torque's 125. That's what I've been doing. The studs like it. Everything else seems to like it. And it's just been coming out good. It's been going good. I've already done all the mains from the 5th to the 2nd. I've took the bore measurement without a bearing, and I torque it to 90 foot-pounds when I do that measurement. You know, I'm not clamping it as hard as I possibly could be, but you're still getting an accurate read on that. And then once I put the bearing in, I put it down to full torque, 125 foot-pounds once I put the bearing in. And once the bearing's in, I knock the cap around. I make sure that the bearings actually line up, because see, these caps, like, they have leeway, they have movement, and it's your job. All right, there's no locators on these, no exact locators. And I know, like on some others, like the LS and stuff, they got side bolts that come in and everything. There's a lot of engine designs out there that positively locate the caps. These don't have that. There's leeway around the, around the studs, or even if there were bolts, there's leeway room around them. They've got some forward and back, and like I said, it's up to you to adjust the cap to get your bearings to line up and be, where they're supposed to be. Just want to put that out there. Like I said, 2 through 5, all of them have checked out. Got 3 thousandths on this one, 3 thousandths oil clearance on this one, 3.5 thousandths, a little bit over 3.5 thousandths, and a little bit over 3.5 thousandths on that one. So all the oil clearances are good on those, and I imagine it's going to be good on this one. I was just going to check it with y'all. Let's see, we covered the main studs. Yep, we covered them. They're good. They were missing the instructions, but you can go online and get them. I measured all the main journals, and that's how I know my oil tolerances are good, because I've already measured all my main journals. So that's how I know all of my tolerances are good for all of those. And the other thing, we're going to go ahead and wipe off the cam, make sure it's good and clean, wipe it off. We're going to throw some lube on it and go ahead and put the cam back in. Yes, these are the old cam bearings. These are the cam bearings from when I first tore it apart. They're the bearings that was in this engine when I tore it apart. They're in good shape. I've looked over them, I've inspected them, I've measured them. Like, they're good. Plus, that cam came out of this block. That cam, all the wear on it is seated to these bearings, so it's going to be fine. And the cam was tight when it was coming out, so we're not going to have any problems. That being said, I did want to replace the cam bearings, but as of the filming of this episode right here, as of the filming of this assembly, I cannot get my hands on cam bearings. Like, I've literally been trying for a month now. Like, I have up-to-date emails, like literally from today. I've got emails from companies saying out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. I don't know what it is with the cam bearings for a 7.3, but you can't get a hold of them right now. Now, I'm sure just as soon as I slide that bad boy in here and we get this buttoned up, and probably whenever I'm pushing it over into the truck, I'll probably get a notification on my phone and they'll say, your bearings are in the mail. They'll probably be on their way, because that's just my luck. But we can't wait forever on them. And like I said, these bearings are good. It's just my OCD was wanting new bearings in here. I was wanting new everything. But sometimes you just have to work with what you got. And this is what we got. And luckily, it's good enough. So that being said, before we check out this one here, before I do a little demonstration on how I go about measuring, my bores and getting my tolerances and stuff, I want to go ahead and lube up that cam and slide it in here.
Come here, Mr. Cam. We want to give you a wipey wipe so we can put you back in your home.
Oh my Lord! Whoa! That's heavier than I remember. Shoo! Be careful, you're gonna break my table in half. You big old fatty.
What is that? What even is that?
Oh no. I think I might have to find another cam.
What even is that?
I didn't do a visual inspection on the old lifters because I wasn't planning on using them, because I got new lifters. But something got a hold of that cam lobe. Oh man. Let's see. I can't use the cam that come out of the other engine because it's got a lobe beat up. Ah! I was really wanting to put the crank in tonight, but I was wanting to put the cam in without the crank in, so, you know, if I got bound up, I could help guide it and not tear up the bearings. Ah, that's stupid. Always one step forward and a flight of stairs backwards. Yes. Well, it's a good thing I was at least wiping it off. And I mean, it's not one of those things that I think you can just overlook, because I mean, I felt it. Like when I was sitting there wiping off, it's rough enough that I felt it. That's stupid. That's just plumb ignorant is what it is. I mean, I don't know what got into it, but it's a pretty good little something. Right there's got a little something on it too. Hold up, pause, shut down. Let me, did I pull the sump off that one? Did I pull the sump off that engine? See, got two sumps there. And the one that's in the truck that come off that block though. So I should have a third sump, but I don't have a third sump. All right, okay, just shut it down. I'm gonna have to pull camshafts out, see if I can find a better candidate. Give me a minute. Sacrifices were made, and crisis was averted. Shoo and dang. Yep. I tore into that PMR engine back there, the one that was our original candidate before, you know, I found the messed up cylinder. And its cam is beautiful. It has almost identical wear marks to the cam that come out of this engine, but there's no nicks, there's no funny business on this one. So we should be able to lube this one up and just send it right in there. So I mean, you know, that's the benefit of having all these engines. I mean, anytime you need to make one good engine out of junk, you need at least 3 donors. If you got at least 3 donors, you can generally make one good engine out of junk, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, we technically had 4. I mean, if you want to count the one that blew up. So, you know, maybe I need to bump that number up. If you have 4 junk engines, you can probably put together one decent engine, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Now I'm gonna take this cam, put it over here on the wall of shame with some other parts that probably ain't usable. Maybe some of them are usable. And we'll get this bad boy lathered up and slid right on in its new chassis. Oh yeah. Come here. Oh, Jesus. Ow. Ow, I hurt myself. Ouchie. Oh, Lord. Heavier than I thought. Why'd I do that? All right. It's usually a lot better when you got help to do this. You know what? Hang on. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting hurried. I'm gonna make mistakes. I need to actually visually inspect the bearings, make sure no trash has got in here. Okay. I do believe we are good to slide in that cam. We just gotta whoosh, whoosh. Yep, it definitely helps to have a second set of hands for this operation, but you don't always have 2 hands available. So, I mean 4 or whatever. Put a little bit down there in my hand. Yeah, that's that good. That, ooh, yeah, that slick mamba. Oh yeah, that's that good, boy. Ah, quit spilling it everywhere. Whoa, quit sliding. Oh, yeah, this Lucas here, he's still-fish. Oh no, get off that bearing. Oh, get on that bearing, should I say. All right, let's see if we can't get this bad boy in there. Easy. 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 All right, almost there. Come back here, help out this. Oh no, so violent. Easy, easy. Come on, come on. I'm hitting on one of them, but I don't know which one. That one right there. Yeah, there she goes. There she goes. Smooth and steady. Wins the race. There we go. Right there. Aha. Beautiful thing. Whew. I was trying to be overly delicate on it, but you know, hopefully I didn't hurt myself, but let's see. I don't think we did. Oof. Man, that stuff right there, that Amsoil, that stuff is thick. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, that stuff is thick right there, boy. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good and slimy. Yeah. Yeah. We got the tooth that marks, so the cam will go, oh, right there it is. The cam timing mark goes there, and then the crank timing mark will drop right into it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Ain't that what they say? I'm pretty sure it's what they say. Camshaft thrust plate, 18 foot-pounds. All right, so our 3 little bolts will go to 18 foot-pounds. Or 3 little bolts, or 2 little bolts. See, all these are bagged up, but I know where 2 are that ain't bagged up. Booyah. Right there. That should be a whopping and impressive 18 foot-pounds. Oh, my knees. It's me. Would you please? Whoop. Oh, yeah. There we go. Beautiful thing, beautiful thing. Hey, get out of there. 18 footy-pounds, 18 footy-pounds. I don't know. I think we need to go for 20. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And a little to grow on. Just, you know, just cuz. And, yep, just a little to grow on there. Sweet! Our cam is in. Let's get you up here where you go. That goes up there. Cool. Alright. Look at that. We're making a mess on the floor. I got her. Wow, that stuff is sticky. Almost can't drag a rag across it. And in case y'all wonder why I save all my rags instead of just throwing them away, and once they get too dirty for me to feel comfortable using them on stuff that I want clean, I just leave them in a pile here, and then whenever we have an accident, you know, these are still good for absorbing, you know, mass spills or liquids of that nature. So, you know, I get every last drop out of my rags, okay? I use every bit of them. I get all the use out of them. All of it, I said. Now back to what I was doing, a regular broadcasted infotainment. I gotta switch this out because the one I got in it's too short for doing the bore. So you got a lid you got to get off, you got a spacer you got to get off. Put that one there. Put this little spacer on there. And this is just subject to this tool. Any multitude of these could be different than this one, so how this is set up, I can't really say. I mean, if you got the Fowler, this is the Fowler. If you have the Fowler, yours will set up just like this. I put the 12 thousandths. Actually, I don't even think it's 12 thousandths. I think it's 1200ths. I don't know. It's that number there. Okay. It's 0.12 is the shim I put in there with the number 7, 3.2 inch is Shanky Dank. And then the gauge here, y'all don't even worry about the gauge. That's for me to play with and y'all to be scared of. And then see, we just take it and we just pop it in here, just like so. And then I pretty much just, I'm going after a min-max reading. Well, pretty much a max reading is what I'm after. Let's see. And in that particular spot, that line right there is my max reading. And then I rotate it over to about here, and I get my max reading right there. Okay. Then I come over like this and I get my max reading right here. Alright, that's what I like to see. 10-4. Alright. Now, the line that lines up with, just shy of it. Just shy of it. Whop this back here. Oh, gotta come out, gotta go all the way to the 3. Because we already roughly know where this measurement's gonna be. At least I roughly know where this measurement's gonna be. It takes a little findangling, but once you get used to doing it, it's no big deal. You want it centered up on your things here as best you can. And I don't want to hear any criticism about how I'm going about this, how I'm on a box, or how I'm not stable, so I'm not getting an accurate reading. The numbers that I'm getting off of this and the numbers that I'm writing down are matching up exactly with what the stock specifications are. So, and I mean, I'm beautifully right there where I'm supposed to be. So I'm doing something right, okay? I'm doing something right. My numbers are coming out right, so I'm doing something right. You want both your tips centered up as best you can, and then you just set the gauge. So you can dial the gauge, woo, 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 woo. See how it's moving? And you just put it to where you was getting your reading at, which was right about there, and then you double check, make sure you're centered up. Yeah. And you just lock her down. And once you lock it down, you want to double check and make sure that you are still in your ballpark of where you're supposed to be at. Because once you lock it down, it tends to get a little tighter sometimes. Yep. So I just need to back it off just a little bit. I say it takes a little, yeah, right there, okay. Takes a little bit of fiddling. And come over here, let's see if I can't whop us out a fresh page anywhere. Oh lordy. Nope. Nope. Yeah, let's see. We'll use that one. That's a good page. And so this is a 3-inch, so our first number is, it's a 3 to 4, so our first number is automatically a 3. And then that second number is going to be it goes to 3 point, and our second number is 3 because that number's showing. And then it's 0.0, whatever the next number is. Each one of these tick marks in between the whole numbers is 0.025. So then it's 0.025, 0.050, 0.075, and then you have your whole, which would be a 0.1. And we haven't made it to our first 0.025, and we're right, I mean, we are right before that 16 right there. So this number is, because we're right before it, we ain't made it to it. So it's the 15, because we ain't quite there. And that's when you go to these small numbers here. And you find the line that matches up the best. Which the line that matches up the best is 0. Chatting right there don't line up. I guess if you get it exactly right, well, that's on 0. And then so yeah, I'm guessing that's actually a 16, because we got 0 here on that one. That right there would be the 4th digit. Whatever number this is, it would be the 4th digit. And since it's lining up on 0, that's actually 16. We are dead nuts on that 16 right there. So our number will be, then you just add all these up, and it's 3.3160. Yep, and that'll be right there in the middle of our specs. That'll be right there where it's supposed to be. Because if you see here, that one was, for number 5, it was 3.3165, 3163, 3159, 3158. That one is 3160. So 0.3160. And see, and I left the whole number off of all these just so make it a little bit bigger and easier to see. But as you see, that will fall right into those tolerances. And then now it's time to go measure the main bore with bearing. And see these here, I got it mixed up. I'll put my clearance number up here, but the rest of them are all in the correct order. And like I said, that one has just over 3 thousandths. That one has just over 3.5 thousandths. That one's dead nuts 3 thousandths. And that one's just over 3 thousandths. So, and from that main bore, as long as this next measurement lines up with the rest of them, we should pretty much have an average of 3 thousandths of main bearing clearance all the way across the board. But we got to do this last measurement real quick. Well, it'll be real quick for y'all, not for me. I got to pull the cap off, put the bearings in, and re-torque. But the setup for this, because it gets smaller, our hole gets smaller, this rod won't work. So I have to pull out the 3.2, the number 7, 3.2 inch rod, and put in the number 6, 3.0 with the shim. Both times it's got to have the shim. It's just how this measurement works out right there. Now let me get this switched over and we'll pick right back up. You know what? I changed my mind, because there's probably going to be a little controversy on this. Probably, especially if you're not a Ford guy, which I'm not a Ford guy. I didn't even know this till I got into this, looking into it. I'm normally a GM guy and a work from your center out type of guy, but that is not how Ford says to do their main bearings. So I'm gonna break it loose in reverse torque sequence for how you do each cap. I mean, you start at the middle and you'll work your way out, obviously, whenever you're torquing them down. But for the caps, you would think it would be like torque this bolt, then torque that one, then torque that one. That's not how Ford does it. Ford wants you to torque the outside one, this outside one, then you torque that one, then you torque that one. So you go there, 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 there. Which doesn't seem normal to me, because I'm pretty sure if you even look up the LS, it's both inside ones, then you do the outside ones. Ford, they're no bueno on that. They'll have you torque that one, then do that one, and then you move on to the next cap, do the same thing, and then, you know, same. So yeah, Ford is, you know, they've always been a little different. Some people love them, other people don't care too much for them. The bearing with the hole in it goes to the block side for, you know, oiling purposes, obviously. Always inspect your bearings, make sure there's no schmoo or debris or anything that's gonna make you otherwise cry later. Make sure it's seated down and in there flush and straight. You can usually tell if the bearing is cocked this way or that way, usually by the top of it. I mean, you want to give it a visual inspection up here too. Make sure it's straight and in line. But usually when you get down and look at it on plane, you can tell, you know, if it's flat and even with the block, it's usually pretty good. From my experience, experiences will differ, and opinions will too. But you know what they say, everyone's got opinions. Only ones that count are mine. Let's see. Make sure it's seated down all the way. Ooh. Let's see, is that a... Yeah, a little piece of fiber on there, nothing to worry about. All right, there we go. That is seated down. Now we'll just set that there. We'll just set that right there. Get your studs back in. Good thing that washer didn't fall off. I always just kind of start that outside one. Then I'll take this one over, you know, whichever side is up, I'll take it and just kind of run it down a little bit. And I've already got the stud. And you know, on studs of any caliper, I always say bottom them out, back them off a quarter turn. Unless, if they're bottomed out and you back them off a quarter turn, once you put the nut on them, if the stud is still down inside the nut, if you don't have full thread engagement, then back the stud out further enough to get full thread engagement before you're actually torquing. That way you get your best, that way you don't strip the nut out or something. That way you get your best engagement on this end as well as on this end as you can get. So make sure that before you start your torque, you at least have full thread engagement, because the thread depth in the block can vary on anything, whether you're doing head studs, main studs, anything. So set your studs appropriately for the task at hand, you know. And this in here, obviously, I'm gonna back it. See that right there? Can y'all see that? That one there and that one there, they're both lower than any of these, lower than I'd like them. So whenever I actually put the crank in, those studs I'll actually lift up just a little bit to get a little more thread engagement on the nuts. But that being said, they are at full torque and holding right now. They're at 125 foot-pounds and doing their job. But I still just, you know, it's me, okay? My OCD, it declares that it needs to be done. Now this is where I get out my hammer. Because this bearing here, and I know it's probably impossible or really hard for y'all to tell on camera, but this top bearing is sitting a little bit like this, and a lot, you know, as far as compared to the bearing below it, they're not perfectly aligned. So the cap gets a little tappy tap. Gonna move the cap over a little bit. A little bit more. That side's pretty good. Oh yeah, that's a beautiful thing right there. See, sometimes you gotta do a little massaging on them to get them all in the right place. So that way all the bearing halves line up just as they should. First step, 50, because that's as low as this torque wrench will go. Get on this in here. Click. 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 And then I always like to do every torque sequence twice. Like if you're doing 50, I go through it twice. I even do it on head studs. I run through everything twice. It's just what I like to do. And you always want one smooth pull. If you get jerky, your torque reading will not be accurate. All right, you can have it 25 foot-pounds on there and get it to pop at 90, okay? Not really, that's an exaggeration. I'm just throwing out numbers here as a demonstration. You will not get an accurate torque if you're not smooth like a butter. Smooth. Nice long stroke. Oh yes. All right. Run through it a second time. Sweet. All right, now we're going to 125. 125. And no, I will not be over torquing the main studs, because now that there is studs down here, which even with the bolts, I don't think we were ever gonna, I think the bolts were good enough, but like at 125 with studs, if things come apart now, things are gonna come apart. I mean, we're looking at total failure anyway. I mean, if the studs break or it rips studs out of block or whatever, extra 10 foot-pounds of torque ain't gonna stop it. Not at the bottom end, it won't. You'd just be reaching the limitation of the material itself. Let's see here. Keep this thing from moving. There we go. Oh yeah. Nice solid click. That's what I like to hear. Oh yeah. Like I said, these are good studs so far. Ain't got no sponge to them, and I ain't broke one yet. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Beautiful. Torqued to perfectione. All right, now we check that size. Always back off your torque wrenches when you're done with them. You'd rather wear out the threads on them than wear out the spring and make them inaccurate. Let's see. Make sure there's no contaminants on our measuring device. Hey, it's me. Come on.
I tried to load up RottenTomatoes.com, okay, so that I could check reviews for a Blu-ray to determine if I was willing to risk losing it in the pop-up motorized optical drive on the top of this laptop. Guys, do not miss that video. I was like, do I care about this Blu-ray? And then
That one actually made it to the line. So pull out, and we're gonna go just a little bit this direction.
but the actual images weren't loading. It was pretty rough. A discussion question here is,
Hey, whoa, get out of there. Okay. I'll come over here. Oh. All right, that's all I need to see. Go unlock this. I'm gonna wind her down here to the 1. Somewhere in this ballpark down here somewhere. Let's see. All right. Ready? There it is. Whoop, there it is. All right, so this one will be. All right, so first number will be 0.1. Second number, because we made it past the 0, so our second number will be 0.25. And we're gonna have another one of those because we're just over the 1 there, just over it. So it'll be 0.01, and then we'll have our last number here, which would be, I think it might be that 1 right there. We'll see. Now see, the best lines that line up is it's almost on that 1 and it's slightly past that 2. Like, that's the best ones that line up, is the 1 and the 2. But it's slightly before the 1 and slightly after the 2. So that gives it the 1.5 out here. Then you add it all up and you get a 5 out here because it's by itself, a 1, a 6, a 2, a 1, a point, and then it's 3 because that's our whole number's 3. So 3.12615. And remember, I don't put the 3 on there because it takes up too much room, so it's 12615. 12615. And that right there puts us right in line. It's actually the, let's see, it's the smallest, but let's see, that right there is not. It's, our biggest number is number 4. And then it's number 5, and then number 3, then 2, and then 1. It counts down kind of going this way. And then now I need my phone because I don't feel like writing it out and doing, paper math. All right, so let's see. You want to take our bore number because that's the bigger number because we're comparing it to our journal. Our journal fits in our bore, so that's their smaller number. So we want to take, let's see right here. See right here. We want to take 0.12615 minus 0.12335. That's our journal size, which equals 0.0028. That's 2 thousandths, almost 3 thousandths. So yeah, like I said, once you average it out, we got 3 thousandths across the board. That is fully within spec. 2 to 4 thousandths is the spec on our oil clearance. And I said 2 to 4 thousandths, right? Yeah, 2 to 4 thousandths is our tolerance on our oil spec. Get in my pocket pen. So we're good. 2 to 4 thousandths. We average 3 thousandths across the board. I mean, we're right in the meat of it. We're right in the middle. I love it. I'm happy. All right, now let's see. Yep, now I gotta pull all the caps off so I can drop the, and I gotta wipe off the crank really, really good. And then we're gonna drop in the crank and we're gonna plastic gauge it. That's what this little line here, I have made up the PG clearance. That's for the plastic gauge clearance. Now I'm gonna do that on everything. Because now we got the actual hard measured numbers, and these ain't the most expensive. These are some of those Wu-Dang Sun calipers and stuff. But I'm going to safely say that they are at least within 1,000ths of accuracy, because even the hard parts that I measured, like I measured the wrist pins, and I've measured pistons, and I measured crankshaft journals, all the hard parts that I measured have all been dead right in the specs. So while I have the cheap Chinesium tools, they are doing the job that they're supposed to do. And that being said, I would like to do a comparison of Plastigauge to see if it comes within the realm of accurate. So I'll pick back up with you once the crank is sitting in there and all the mains are torqued down, so we can all visually get that Plastigauge comparison. I know I said I'd catch back up with you when it was time to pull the caps off and do a reading, but I just wanted to, do a brief intermission. There's 3 general types, or colors or thickness or gauges of Plastigauge. You have your blue, your green, and your red. The green is good for 1 to 3 thousandths of an inch accurately. The red is for 2 to 6 thousandths. And see, and I mean, they're labeled right there on them, but, and the red one, I can't really get you. And one side is measured in inches, the other side is measured in, metric millimeters. You just have to trust me that this red is good for 2 to 6 thousandths, all right? It's just, the red I've been using a lot, all right? There ain't much left of it. And it's got the little measuring gauge right here, like once you go to the smush, you do the comparison there. And then the blue is good for 4 to 9 thousandths. Since we know that our measurement is averaging around 3 thousandths across the board, the 2 to 6 thousandths is what we want. Because we'd be at the max end of the green, and we'd be at the not even really end to this one. So we're right in the meat and potatoes of the red. And you just cut off pieces that are the length of your bearing width. So however wide your bearing is, you just cut you off a piece about the width of it. And then you delicately peel it open, and there'll be a little strip in there. And you get out that little strip, and you ever so delicately lay it on the journals. Once you get them all on there, then that's when you put the caps on and you torque them down. After you do a full torque on it, you don't rotate the crank, you don't touch the crank, you don't even look at the crank. You loosen all the caps, you pull all the caps off, and at that moment is when you can take your little gauge here, and you can get in and you'll be able to read what you've done. Pretty simple stuff, it's pretty straightforward. But the main reason I want to do this little brief intermission is if you're doing it the same way that I'm doing it. Now see, I have dry bearings. I haven't put any lube on these bearings whatsoever. And I have the crank wiped as clean as I can possibly get it. And I just took the crank and I set it, I just set it straight down in here. If you're doing it the same way, I know it's tempting to set it in there and like rotate it or this, that. Don't. If your bearings are dry, just set it in there. Do not move it. Like, don't. Please. It's me, guys. Come on. Don't do it. And then, even once you get done, like, don't like, oh, I'll just lube the top half here and just roll it over or something like, no. Whenever I get done with this measuring process and I, pull all the caps off and we read the Plastigauge, I will pick the crank straight up out of here, lube the bearings, and then put the crank back in. Now, you might be asking, why didn't I put any lube on here before, I put the crank in? Well, that's because this assembly lube is really thick, and it, the crank rides on it. The crank, it will hold it up off of the bearings. And that's what you're measuring for right now is your oil tolerances. So if you have that really thick, sticky crank lube in there that's, holding it up its thousandths or half thousandths or whatever it is. It's not pressurized, but like I said, this is thick assembly lube. If it's holding it up just that little bit, whenever you do it, it'll throw off your measurement here just that little bit. So, at least in my brain, that's how it works. So I like to do this dry, and you will have no problems as long as you're careful. Like I said, no spinning of the crank, you know, no craziness. This works. I mean, I've had great success with it. Like I said, after you get your plastic gauge reading, you pull out the crank, throw the lube on the bearings, and you can set her back in there, lube the other half of the bearings that are in the caps, throw the caps on, torque it all down, Bob's your uncle. You can just start spinning her, and it'll be a beautiful thing. Everybody's happy. All right, now that that rant's over, I'm gonna put the caps on and torque them, and then I'm gonna untorque them, and then we'll pull them all off and look at them together. Woo, dang! I love it when a plan comes together. Did get a little overzealous though. Did go ahead and put the retainer bolts in for the cam. Didn't really need to do that because, you know, you can, whenever I have it out and I lube the bearings, I could fight with the crank to get it rotated in place, but then I'm doing a delicate balancing act on the bearings. So once I get the crank put back in and all the mains torqued down with the lube, I'll pull the retaining bolts back out of the cam and pull it out so I can get, you know, the timing marks where they need to go. Was a little overzealous with, you know, just bolting on the plate. I mean, not really putting it in, just putting the bolts in the plate. But that being said, like I said, I love it when a plan comes together. Got all our caps yanked back off. You know, I did a full torque on them, and I took them all right back off. And everything has come out, you know, beautifully. Let's get you off my head here so I can get you a little better angle, maybe. It's hard to really, uh-oh, is it gonna focus? I can't tell, this thing don't focus. But when you lay that right down on it, which I'm hovering up above it so it ain't reading right. That one there is right in between the 3 and the 4. It's right in between it. All right, where were we? Battery died. Had to come back in. Like I said, this one's hard to, because the weight is right in the way and getting that down on it. See, y'all can tell, and I'm all shaky. That one's a little bit smaller than the 3,000ths, but it's bigger than the 4,000. So it's right around 3.5 thousandths. And then that in there is really hard to get in, but it is like dead nuts 3,000ths. Get you on this one here. Yeah, see, there's another one. Dead nuts 3,000ths. This in here, dead nuts 3,000ths. That one there, dead nuts 3,000ths, according to plastic gauge. And that one there, from our numbers, that one was 3,000ths exactly according to our numbers. So my whole theory, and me constantly telling everyone that plastic gauge will get you within 1,000ths, is point proven. I mean, I'm almost willing to say it'll get you within 0.5 thousandths. Because that right there is the only one that really let's see what that one said. What was number 1? All right, yeah, number 1 was under 3. All right, maybe, now hang on, I was reading that wrong on number 1. It's a little fat. I was saying it was closer to 4. Let's take a second peek at it. Well, wherever I measured that one, it was a little bit off. Something's a little off on that one. Because that one says, according to my numbers and my mathematicals, which I did read it awful fast, is right under 3,000ths. And the plastic gauge is putting it right over 3,000ths. But it's still within 1,000ths. And then the rest of them are all reading right where they're supposed to be. Reading right where my numbers on the paper says they are. So I'm still gonna stand by the plastic gauge. It's accurate. Yeah, I mean, it'll get you there. If you have the right size plastic gauge and you know how to read it and you know how to use it, it'll get you there. It'll do what you need it to do for you in a bind. I mean, it just works, all right? You can't be mad at it. That being said, I'm gonna get a little brake cleaner on a rag, wipe that little smudge off the crank, take a little brake cleaner to the bearings, just give them a little spray, get that off of them, and then But I'm gonna take the crank out to do it so I'm not spraying in here. And then once I get all that plastic gauge cleaned off everything very delicately, I'm gonna lube my bearings, put my crank in, put all the main caps back on, and torque them back down. And everything's gonna have lots of sticky lube on them, because that's how we like it. I'll catch back up with y'all right after I have it all torqued down, so that way we can pull the cam back out, do the timing, and then I'm probably gonna call it for tonight after that. Last thing we're gonna test before we adjust the timing and get that right is our crankshaft in-play. Now, from what I've been able to ascertain from the intrawebs is that the specified limits on this is anywhere from 2.5 thousandths to 8.5 thousandths. So we're gonna see where ours lies. Now we have the crank sitting still, and I got my rig here mounted up as stable as I can, and this particular gauge here reads in thousandths of an inch. So every tick is a thousandth, so it's very sensitive. Like, you barely touch anything and it's like, ah! So yeah. And what you want to do is get a clean tool of the prying, as clean as you can get it anyway, and you want to stick it someplace that's good and sturdy and give it a little pry. Not a lot of pry, but a little bit of pry, a little bit of pressure. And that right there has got us up to 2 thousandths. It's moved to the second tick off of the 0. Got us 2 thousandths there. And then you want to pull it back the other way. Now this is, you're not getting carried away here. You're just giving her little nudges. You're just trying to see what the end play is. All right, you ain't got to stand on this thing. Now see, you just give her a little pull. And I mean, I got a good amount of pressure on it. There's probably 40, 50 pounds of pressure on that bar. And that gives me 3 ticks this way, which is 3 thousandths. 3 thousandths this side, 2 thousandths that side. That's 5 thousandths on the nose of crankshaft in-play, which puts us right in the middle of our 2 to 8 thousandths in-play tolerance, which, you know, hey, everything on this thing's been checking out so far, so I ain't gonna be mad about it. All right, I ain't gonna be mad about it. Now, not today, not tomorrow, not even yesterday. I ain't gonna be mad about it. Nah. All right, now let's see. Let's get this out of the way. Let's get this right here. Oof. And seeing this is actually a kit from Matoya for actually checking a rear diff. You know, to setting up rear diffs to check the backlash and stuff in those. Very handy instrument. Very, very handy. You know, I haven't even seen how well this thing turns over. You know, where's a tool of the spinning? Aha, a tool of the spinning. Aha, another tool of the spinning. You know, you should be able to do it by hand. Oh yeah, and with all that sticky goodness on there and you can spin it over that easy. Oh, that's lovely. Oofta. Oofta me. Now I don't want to spin it too much because I don't want to work out all of our lube. You know, I want it to stay in there on the bearings, but oh yeah, that is a beautiful thing. And look, it'll even almost, I was gonna say, hey, look at that. The weight of the bar turns it over. Yep, that's a happy engine. And if you notice, like, it's just staying consistent too. So but we're gonna back it up because I want that one pointing down. Cause see, we have a timing mark right there, that one, and it has to line up with that one. Gotta get that up there. All we have to do is take out that bolt and then the bolt that's hidden right back there, and we'll pull it out, rotate it, pop it back in. Pretty simple. 13 millimeter. Yeah, so if you manage to time one of these wrong, something wrong with you. Like, you had to really be trying if you timed one of these engines wrong, because, well, I mean, it's right here for you. It's kind of hard to do. Now see, you just slide it out. Oh, and see, it has enough journal, it'll ride right there. And you just crank her over, crank her over, crank her over till you get the right tooth. Yep. Oh, okay. Wipe some of this oil off my hands. I always got the oil all over me. And see, you get the right tooth lined up at an angle, and then yep, and see, it just slides right in there, and bada bing, bada bam, timing is done. Now, yes, if we were getting real fancy about it and putting aftermarket cams on it and redegreeing stuff, you know, we'd have a dial wheel out here and, you know, redegreeing the cam and stuff, but, you know, we're not doing that. Stock cam, stock crank, running stock engine timing. We ain't got to do any of that stuff right there, none of that there fancy stuff. We ain't got to do none of it. All right, ladies and gents. We ain't got to do none of that fancy stuff. I do have to pull this back out just a hair because my plate is stuck there on that. Then I push it back in. There we go. Yep, I'm gonna get these torqued down now to 18 foot-pounds. 18 foot-pounds. How much you want to bet that's probably pretty close? Oh, dang. I need to loosen it up because this hole up here ain't nowhere near lined up. Start both your bolts before you tighten them. A word to the wise from the dumb. Did y'all catch that? No, probably not. Idiots. Oh, wrong way. Wrong way! Alright, now we'll throw the torque wrench on it and double check. Oh, it has to be at least 18. Then I took it to 20, and then I snugged it even more. So, you know, why am I even using a torque wrench when I'm just improvising with the German torque wrench anyway? I don't know. Look at me, I'm fancy. I got a torque wrench. Stupid. Let's see, last time I set it at 20. Yeah, I did. It calls for 18, but this stuff's old. We give it a little extra. Oh, no, it wasn't quite at 20. And then I'm gonna take it like that much further. That makes me happy. You can feel it. You can feel it. How close is this one? Oh, yeah, see, that one was right on the money, huh? And we're gonna, right there, I like that. That felt good. There we go, bottom in. Well, I about got real excited there, didn't I? And there it is. We have a successfully installed crankshaft. All the measurements have been taken. Everything's verified. Everything's beautiful. We got a camshaft that's installed and just loving its life. It's rotating right along. It is timed with the crank. And tomorrow, I'm probably going to go about checking all my piston ring end gaps and setting all that, and then checking my rod ends, making sure they're right for the bearings, and then measuring rod journals on the crank and just doing all that good stuff. And if that's something you're interested in, you have to join us on the next video, because this is going to wrap this one up. And this might be a short one. I can't even really tell right now, but it might be a short one. But I think that's enough for one video. You know, at least getting a crank installed in a 7.3, you know, showing you how to check measurements, how to properly torque it by the book, and how I work my studs and do all that kind of stuff. And I hope y'all found something here insightful. And if you would, leave a like and a comment down below. If you didn't like what's going on here, hit that dislike button. I value your input either way. And if you believe that I have earned it, please hit that subscribe button and come on back. You can join us for future videos, catch up on some of the past content. I've enjoyed having you, and that's going to be all for this one. Y'all have a good one.